Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for joining me tonight. I'm just a couple of minutes early, so I'm just going to give it like 2 more minutes to let a few other people pop on before I actually get started. In the meantime, I suggest maybe getting pad of paper or taking notes on an iPad or an iPhone because I'm going to give you guys a lot of great information tonight that you probably will not retain all of it, but you can also come back and watch this video again as I'm going to leave it up on YouTube. So, first off, you're going to hear some barking going on. I apologize in advance for my little Wayne's World setup here, but you got to do what you can. You got to work with what you can. So if somebody could pop on and just let me know that you guys are hearing me, just in the comment section, let me know that you guys can hear the audio on this. Anybody? Anybody? Awesome. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. Thanks, sweetie. Okay, great. So this is actually my first live YouTube streaming event. So give me a just cut me a little slack here because I am IT challenged, and so the speaking stuff is really easy for me. But it's always the technical techie stuff that throws me off. So I'm hoping we're not going to have any technical difficulties tonight. Um, if you hear the dogs barking in the background, that's because my husband is now pulling up to walk in the door. So I'm going to give him 1 second to walk in so that we don't hear a bunch of barking. You guys like my home studio back here? Okay, I don't hear any barking right now, so I must be okay. So let's get started. Um, First of all, a lot of people, I don't think they really understand the concept of happiness, and a lot of people believe that happiness is just instinctual. But the truth is, happiness is really not instinctual, and it is something that we kind of have to learn as we grow, and it is something that is similar to a talent or a skill. Learning how to play an instrument, it has to be fine tuned and it has to be practiced. You may have come from a negative background. You may have come from a background where maybe you had an unhappy childhood, or maybe your parents just weren't really happy people. Um, and so you may have to unlearn some things, and that's okay too. It's just as easy to unlearn negative habits as it is to learn good habits. So that shouldn't be ever something that stands in your way of finding happiness. Is, well, I was raised in an unhappy childhood, and I don't really. This is how I am, and this is who I am. That's not true. We can break that habit, and I'm going to give you guys some really awesome tools and steps tonight to defeat those negative thoughts when they start coming in your head. Um, they say that nothing worth having comes easy, and happiness is really no different. It's something that sometimes takes a lot of work, and but it's worth it. And I know right now I've got my girls on here, and I originally intended for this to be only for women, but I think I might have a couple of guys popping on as well. But ladies that have have always thought that breastfeeding was something that was just automatic and instinctual, and some of us have found out the hard way that that wasn't true. And I know for me, they had to send in somebody called a lactation consultant. I didn't even know what that was, and so sometimes the things that you think are just instinctual and easy and normal are the things that tend to come the hardest. So if you grew up in a negative environment and you didn't grow up learning intentional happiness, this is going to be your opportunity to maybe unlearn some things. So, my first question for for you to ponder is, how do you measure happiness? And think about it for a minute in your own life. What is your gauge, and when are you the happiest? Some people will say, well, when I get the job that I like, or when I have enough money, or when I can afford the home that I want, or we have the kids we want. And the problem with that is a lot of that is just temporary. And even though it can be different for everyone, it's a lot of times it's contingent upon an individual's immediate or external situation. But long term happiness, unwavering happiness, is not found in your job or your marital status or your material possessions. And I know that we know this on some level. Um, and most of us are aware that you can't buy happiness. But you also can't rely on the things that are temporary to make you happy, because a lot of times, even after you get them, there's a temporary happiness, whether it's a new car or a new job, but that eventually tends to wear off, and then you're kind of left back where you're looking for something now to make you happy. Um, a lot of people think that the basic formula for happiness involves financial security. I know for me personally that was a real big one. That was something that I had a hard time letting go of in my life. Is I had an issue with financial insecurity, and it's that, well, it's easy to say that it doesn't buy happiness if you have it. If I just had more money, it would be easier. But if you look really at the formula, the way a lot of people have handled money, um, a lot of times money actually ends up being their downfall. Um, a couple examples that I kind of wrote down here that that kind of show the uh, the downside to a lot of that is, when you think about what you do for a living, when you think about what you would want to do to make money, uh, do you do something that you don't like? Are you stuck in a job you don't like just because it provides a paycheck? Would you rather do something that you don't like and make a lot of money, or would you rather do something that you really do enjoy, and maybe you make a lot less, but you're passionate about your job, you enjoy going there every day, whether it's the job, the people, the environment, whatever that is that makes you happy. So that's a good one to just kind of ask yourself, just to yourself, not something that you would have to share with any of us. But I know I found out kind of the hard way about hanging on to a job that I didn't particularly enjoy. A lot of them actually, but I did them because I had the financial security. I had a paycheck, and a lot of times we are staying in certain situations for all the wrong reasons, and it could be fear, it could be financial security, it could be a relationship that we're in, that we're staying in just because it's better to be with somebody than not with anyone at all. And these are things that we will talk ourselves into. Sometimes we will find ourselves talking about a job, or a relationship, or a situation that we're in, and making excuses for staying there even though we know we aren't happy in that situation. And this is one of the most important things that I think people really need to take into consideration when they are looking at what is either making them unhappy, or what it is that they're looking for to make them happy. It's interesting when you look at the pattern with people that have won the lottery, and 9 times out of 10, those people will end up saying years down the road that it was the worst thing that ever happened to them. And in putting together this this workshop, it was one of the things that I was reading about was how many lottery winners ended up just so much worse off than they were when they started. And I think a lot of that has to do with um, expecting a certain level of happiness to come from that money. And then when that doesn't happen and they are left with people around them that are only there because of their money, and they end up in situations where they don't really know who's their friend and who isn't their friend. That usually brings a lot of heartache and a lot of hurt down on people. And in contrast, when you look at these very small remote villages in the middle of nowhere where you have scientists or explorers or people going and studying a culture, uh, they're always amazed at the happiness in some of these cultures and these most remote cultures with nothing. A lot of times in some of these cultures, they have to walk miles and miles for water, or they don't know when they're going to eat next because it depends on what's caught in the village. Sometimes there's issues of illness and sickness and loss, but a lot of these indigenous tribes and a lot of these groups have a very positive and happy outlook on life, and they have nothing. So you would ask yourself, well, what do they have to be happy about? So when you start thinking about that, and you really start to understand that happiness is something that comes from within, it gives you a little different perspective on what we need to do ourselves, especially in a society that we live in today, to really be intentional about finding that happiness and finding that balance and being in it every day. So, with that said, um, intentional happiness requires discipline and control. And so I'm going to cover the four basic parts of happiness, and what you need. And you really need all four of them in order to really be able to master the art of intentional happiness. And when you put these into practice and you understand where a lot of these stem from, it really does bring a lot more perspective on how you can do this yourself. So the first one is mental. A lot of us, I think mental is a very big one, because a lot of us get very caught up in our heads about a lot of things, and we we live in a society where there's a lot of comparison and there's a lot of criticism, and we see things on TV and on social media that a lot of times are critical or can be crass, and we don't want to be under that negative spotlight. We don't want people, judging us negatively. We don't want people to misinterpret who we are. A lot of times, this happens from people who don't even know us. So one of the most important things that I think is at the top of my list is confidence. Um, you've got to know who you are. You've got to be confident with who you are. You have to love who you are, um, and never be apologetic for that. You are unique, and you are an individual like no one else. And when you start to really understand how special you are, and the gifts that you have, and all of us have gifts. So don't even get into error by thinking that you don't have at least two or three. um, Finding your gifts and finding the things that you feel strong about, that you feel that you do well, is another part of analyzing what it is that makes you confident. So whether it's something artistic, whether it's something educational, whether you're a good teacher, whether you're a great chef, whether you're a great mom and a great homemaker. It doesn't matter. You are your own person, and I think that gaining confidence is obviously it's harder for people that didn't grow up in an element of maybe compliments or being told that they were good at something, or constantly being you know having their gifts pointed out to them. And I know a lot of people that have gone through both. I know people that feel that they have a lot to live up to because of what's expected of them. And I also know people that don't feel worthy because they never felt like anybody thought they were worth anything. And the only person that needs to think you're worth anything is you. Okay. And that's really super important that you grasp the concept of knowing you and knowing what it is that you have to offer. And I think that that takes a lot of sitting down sometimes and taking some time to really think about who you are, think about what you want, think about what it is in your life that you gravitate towards, what you enjoy doing. And so some of that is going to be a little homework project for you guys, where you really just need to think about what it is that you have to offer, and embrace that and know that that is a gift, that is something that you have to offer, that is something that people recognize in you and gravitate towards you for. So whether it's something that is a big, huge, undertaking for a lot of us, which I think it is, or whether it's something that you can kind of sit down and figure out in a matter of, 30, 40 minutes. It's really the stepping stone for figuring out what is going to make you happy, is finding your gifts, finding what you enjoy doing, and knowing your self-worth. So it's something that is your very basic foundation for happiness, is that self-confidence. Without self confidence, without the ability to like who you are and not second guess who you are, it's very hard for anyone else to feel that way about you, too. So, know who you are, love yourself, know that there is no one like you, and start right there with figuring out what it is about you that makes you you. Um, Here's a little secret, and some of you may already know this little secret, but no matter how put together somebody seems, none of us have it together all of the time. We just don't. We all go through periods of self doubt, and even the most confident person, even the person that you look at and you just can't even figure out what they would have to feel self conscious about. A lot of times, those are the people that actually do have the biggest issues with their self image. And I just watched a really cute movie the other night called I Feel Pretty with Amy Schumer, and I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's a very cute movie. And when she feels she looks a certain way, she's just got all this amazing confidence, and people are just drawn to her. And she doesn't look any different than she does at the beginning of the movie, but she hits her head, and it's one of those like, oh, now I'm gorgeous. But what changed in her was her attitude. What changed in her was her confidence and how she felt about herself. And throughout this whole movie, everybody that meets her is just, they're overwhelmed by her confidence, and that is what they gravitate towards her for. And I thought it was a really great movie to watch right before I did this, because it really brought that to my attention, that it had nothing to do with her physical appearance, but everything to do with her confidence and the way she behaved and held herself and the way she felt about herself. And when you feel good about yourself and you like who you are, other people are going to like who you are, and other people are going to gravitate towards that. So that's something really important to understand, that there's no one out there that doesn't experience self doubt or a lack of confidence one time or another. We all do. It's just the way life works. But we have to get past that. We have to, when that starts to go through our heads, we have to bring it back and remind ourselves once again that we are unique. No one is like us. No one can do what we can do. And when we're gone, no one will ever be like us again. So embrace that. Embrace your uniqueness and embrace the fact that no one is you. And I know a lot of you guys out there, and a lot of you that are friends of mine and that are tuning in or maybe tuning in later, to see this on video. I know you guys, and you guys all have just something amazing about you. And I could tell each and every one of you what it is. But every one of you has something unique that I just absolutely adore about you guys. And that is that says a lot about who you are, because what one of you has, another one may not, and usually doesn't. So I know a lot of you personally, and I know what kind of gifts you guys have, and I know how special a lot of you are. And I think that you guys need to understand how special you are too. So that's one of the things that I think we need to work on. And in light of all that, another big element of this is being intentional about the thoughts that you let into your head. Um, we all go down that rabbit hole. I know I do a lot, and it's easy sometimes to just to spin out of control when you are trying to do something that seems monumentous, or it just seems like you've got this mountain in front of you, and you really just don't know how to tackle it. It's easy to let your thoughts overwhelm you, and it's really easy to allow yourself to um, to start breaking down in your head all the reasons you can't do something, or all the reasons something won't work, or all the reasons you're going to fail. That is another area where we need to be super intentional. We need to recognize when we do this. We need to understand when we see ourselves behaving this way, or we find our mind drifting into that negative, into that gray area. We got to pull it back immediately, and that is something that you need to recognize early on, and you need to notice it as it starts to happen, because as a lot of you guys know, once it starts to snowball, it can really just take over your thoughts, and it can really paralyze you, and it can really keep you from achieving what it is that you want to achieve. So we need to get a handle on how we think and what we think, and be sure that those negative thoughts that start to come in are nipped in the bud immediately. Maintain your focus on your priorities, and be conscious not to allow yourself to be sidetracked by small things. I mean, little teeny things can become huge, huge if you allow them to. And I know that a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. I've had conversations with friends where we've all just acknowledged that something that we thought was such a big deal at the time really wasn't later on. But at the time we were going through it, it just seemed overwhelming. So when you start to feel overwhelmed, that is a good time right there to stop and think about what your problem really is. Think about what it is that's overwhelming you. Is it a time restriction? Is it something that you feel is a major priority that has to be done immediately? A lot of times when we get anxious about something, it's more all in our heads. A lot of it has to do with uh, feeling compelled to have something done at a specific time, or feeling like you have to achieve a certain level of something. And when we break it down into smaller pieces, and we start to think about what it is that makes us anxious, it's not as big as we think it is. It really isn't. And I've done that probably at least half a dozen times in just the last couple weeks. And when you take things step by step, which is really what life coaching and goal coaching is all about, it's showing you how to take that mountain and break it down into smaller, more manageable steps. And once you conquer the first step, which is always the hardest. I mean, we know that. But once you conquer that first step and you get to the next one and the next one and the next one, as you continue to do this and as you continue to achieve your smaller goals and you get more confident because you have mastered the smaller elements that lead up to your bigger goal. So when something seems monumental or something seems overwhelming, sit down, take your little book or your notepad, and start making notes about what feels overwhelming. Why do you feel overwhelmed by this particular task? And how can you break that task down into smaller elements and smaller pieces and tackle those pieces easiest to hardest one at a time. And as you continue to do this with anything that comes your way that might be difficult, you will start to gain more and more confidence. And that goes back to our conversation earlier about confidence. And it all works together. The more you succeed at steps that seem overwhelming, the more you achieve, you're getting closer to your goals, the more confidence you will have. And the more confidence you have, the easier it'll be to achieve your goals. So they definitely work hand in hand. Um, the next thing that really kind of falls under this category is exercising self control. A lot of times, it's just the ability um, to handle our thoughts, our actions, and that element of the problem that overwhelms us. So self control is kind of a big part of that, and so that can be something as simple as redirecting your thoughts or taking a different approach to how you're handling something, not allowing yourself to get overwhelmed or to allow other people to deter you. I think that's one of the worst things is when people when you have a goal or something that you want to achieve and people discourage you from that. That's when self-control comes in. And that's when you really need to understand how to tune those people out. And some of them may mean well, but if they're not encouraging you and they're not standing behind you and cheering you on, then that's something that you just kind of need to break away from. And self control is part of that. And sometimes it's just a matter of tuning out the negative things that you're hearing, or sometimes it's more internal and tuning out the things that you're telling yourself. Um, Having a purpose is extremely important when it comes to self control and when it comes to confidence. If you don't have a purpose, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have something to aspire to, you are left in your head. You're left spinning out of control and you're left without direction. And when, it's like sitting in a parked car. If you have no direction, then you don't end up going anywhere. So having a purpose and having a game plan is a big part of having that self confidence and having having a step to take. It's the steps that you conquer that help to create that confidence level. So having a purpose, and this one is a big one. This I still find myself sometimes struggling with this one, but when we kind of get into that funk of just you know depression or self doubt or feeling worthless, that's when it's time to recognize that you need to get your mind off yourself. And for a lot of you that know me, I'm a huge Joyce Meyer fan, and Joyce Meyer is always talking about getting your mind off yourself. What that means basically is the whole poor me, what about me? It's I can't stop thinking about how unhappy I am. That's a really bad place to get to. And I've been there a lot of times, and I have found that it really does work to find someone to help, find a project, find a way to get involved with something positive, something that benefits somebody else. That is always a great mood lifter when you can help somebody else, when you can be a benefit to somebody else, and help them achieve something, or just be there as a friend or as somebody to come along and lift them up. That is one of the things that will always make you feel better. Helping other people, to me, I think is really the greatest feeling. Better than getting a paycheck, better than, really anything that you do that's self-involved. I can't really compare it to a spa day. We all love those, but really helping people and getting your mind off yourself when you're in a funk is a really good way to redirect your thinking and be intentional. And it does make you happy. It's kind of like a serotonin boost for you. It's something that helps you um, be uh, be more human. It's something that helps you have more empathy, and it's really something that if you don't know where to start, just look for a friend that might help, or you can always go to homeless shelter, or you can always go to volunteer at the wildlife center or wherever. But if it isn't volunteering, find something you can do to be productive that helps somebody else. It could just be helping a neighbor go grocery shopping, but that's really, in my personal opinion, that to me always makes me feel the best. Whenever I'm feeling down, if I just look for someone else that I can help, that really just makes me feel good. And I love to recommend that. Um, First and foremost, because it gets your mind off you and you're actually benefiting somebody else. The next really big one, and I can't emphasize this one enough, is move past your past. Okay? Get rid of anything that you are hanging on to, anger, resentment, whatever it is. There is nothing more detrimental to long term happiness than hanging on to something that that you can do nothing about. A lot of times we go through things, and we'll let years go by of and this feeling of anger, this dark feeling that kind of like a cloud hanging over you. It festers. It's very unhealthy. And a lot of times you may have heard the saying that when you're angry, it's like drinking poison, and expecting the other person to die. If that person that you have all this anger toward doesn't really even think about you, or even you're not even a passing thought, then really it is true, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. So I have found it to be very helpful lately, especially I think mostly in this last year. I've let a lot of things go, and it's not easy. None of these are easy. So the stuff that I'm telling you guys, I've been working on for a long time, and I'm still working on a lot of these. But I do know, just in what I've experienced in the last couple years, that it really does make a big difference, and it gives you such a sense of peace and calm, and releasing all of that negativity. Anything that you're holding on to is all part of that. So if you aren't in a position where you're comfortable forgiving somebody in person or over the phone, just forgive them in your heart and start there. Um, it does help if you can eventually graduate to either forgiving them in person, or, you know, even better is reconciling if it's something that isn't too detrimental to to your life. But forgiveness is definitely a big important step here, because letting go of hurt and anger is only going to help you. Hanging on to it is only going to hurt you. So that is something that I do work on with my coaching clients, and it is more in depth than what I can really do tonight. But there are steps all the way through to doing that as well. And if anyone is interested in talking to me about that later on, I'll be more than happy to go into more detail on that. But that is definitely a big one. You have to stop looking back and focus on the road ahead. Uh, when you get into a car, you don't drive looking over your shoulder, right? You drive going forward. Of course not. You don't drive looking over your shoulder. So you want to visualize your goals ahead of you, and it's almost like being on a road and you're driving a car. Obsessing over anything behind you or anything in your past um, is not going to change it. It isn't going to make it better. In fact, all it does is perpetuate the negative in your mind. So letting go of that, and use if if you can't we can't change it, but what we can do is we can use it to propel us forward. We can use it as a lesson. We can use it as an emotion. It's something where if we can just learn from it and grow stronger. A lot of us, we don't learn things when things are easy. We learn them when they're hard. We learn them sometimes the hard way, when we've made a mistake, or when we've done something and we've sacrificed or suffered for something that we did. And it's usually worse when it's something that we did for someone else, and then we got hurt or we got taken advantage of. But all of that, dwelling on that past, doesn't change what happened. And it's really important to wrap your brain around that concept of just letting things go. It's not easy. I know, believe me, I know. And it is still something that I'm working on too. Uh, but I've done it with certain things, and it does work. And so I can tell you from experience that letting go of the things that you can't change and looking at the positive side of what you've learned or what you've achieved from that. You've gained experience, you've gained strength, you've gained knowledge. Use that to propel you forward. And that is always the best way to use a negative past experience. um, Another really good one, and I've been dealing with a lot of friends of mine, and I know a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of this right now as well. And it's important that we understand that toxic relationships are poisonous. They really are. It's important that you associate with like-minded people. It's important that if you want to be happy, you associate with happy people. If you want to get to achieve your goals, you want to associate with people that are going to help you achieve those goals. Whether they can help you, physically, or whether it's just they're there to cheer you on, to support you, to tell you that they've got confidence and faith in you. Um, Toxic people are draining, and they're tiring, and there's no reason to have a toxic person in your life. There's no reason to have somebody who is doesn't have your best interest at heart in your life at any time. People are, unfortunately, we've all heard the phrase, misery loves company, but it's very true. Unhappy people feed off the unhappiness of others. And when they are around people that are happy, they are envious or they are resentful, and it's never really a good combination. And there are people out there that need help, and sometimes we can help them, and sometimes we can't. but we have to know what our own threshold is when it comes to that. I always try to be empathetic to people that are hurting and that are suffering. But I won't do it at my own personal expense. So that's something that we all need to be a little bit more aware of is if we are allowing people that bring us down into our lives. Are we allowing people that are, you know, angry to express anger towards us? Are we allowing people that are spiteful or hateful to be that way to us? Are we, you know, are people talking about us behind our backs and we obsess over it? That's all toxic. That's all people that we don't need in our lives. I mean, they don't bring anything to the table, and all you end up doing is finding yourself constantly um, getting hurt or constantly, you know, up against a wall with people like that. So finding people that are like minded, finding people that are happy, finding people that have similar goals, happiness goals, doesn't necessarily have to be life goals, but just happiness goals. Happy people lift you up and they give you a great energy. And I mean, who doesn't like to be around happy people, right? We all like to be around happy people. No one wants to be around miserable people. So make sure that the people that you have in your circle are those people, are the people that are going to lift you up, especially when you are in one of your lows. I mean, it's easier to deal with toxic people when we are in a good mood and when we are happy and when we feel empowered and when we feel strong. But you know, not only can they drain you, but they can also you know, they can also be even harder to take when you're you know, when you're unhappy, and then now you're feeling like you've got to, you know, maintain your level of happiness and deal with them. So the smartest thing to do is just get them out of your life and find yourself a new set of people to hang out with if that's the case. Um, Challenging yourself is a big one. Setting goals so that you have something that you can work towards is really important. I know we set that for our you know, our children. A lot of times, depending on what you're in, what your job you're in, or what you do for a living, you may have clients that you have goals that you set for. We may work for employers that have us, you know, have goals set for us. So goals are part of life all the time. I mean, even from a young age, and we're in school, we have goals, and so when you have nothing to work towards, it doesn't give you a purpose. So having a goal is very important, but make sure that you keep your goals attainable. Okay. Breaking your goals up into steps is always a great way to deal with them because you don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. You want to give yourself something, something to aspire to, something that you want to achieve, but you don't want to make it so overwhelming that every time you set yourself up for failure, because that definitely takes away from your self confidence. So make sure that whatever it is that you want to do is something that is attainable. And even if it seems really kind of a big undertaking, sit down and break it down into steps. And that is again something that I do with my clients when it comes to goal success, whether it's a job or whether it's where they see themselves in 5 or 10 years. We break that down and we set timelines and we set projects and homework that they can do so that they can achieve that level of success, and they aren't setting themselves up for failure. Uh, just the only two I have left under the mental aspect of it is respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, no one's going to respect you. And unfortunately, I don't think we're intentional about it, but sometimes it's almost just unconscious that if somebody is giving off that air of they just, you know, they've got no spine, or they just are very, you know, flimsy, or you know, they don't really stand up for themselves. they get taken advantage, and sometimes it can even be by us and it's not intentional. But if you respect yourself, if you stand up for yourself, if you stand up for what you believe in, and you respect the views of others, you should expect the same back. So respecting yourself and asking for help when you need it. I had a big problem with that for a long time. That was a big challenge for me. Was I had a really hard time asking for help. Asking for help was something that I just didn't want to do, because for me I felt like it was a weakness. And I learned. It took me a while, and it took me having people in my life to really bring it to my attention that asking for help does not make you weak at all. Asking for help makes you humble. Asking for help is something we all need help at one time or another in our lives. And there's no one that gets through their entire life without needing help at one time or another. If you acknowledge when other people need help and you are there to help them, um, and again, my husband used to ask me all the time, it's like, well, you have no problem helping others, but you have a problem when someone wants to help you. I know it seems a little weird, but yeah, I did. And so it took a lot of looking inside to figure out what that was about. But it was more a for me it was more a problem of the people in my past that I needed help from let me down. And I don't know if any of you have had to deal with that, but when you do deal with it, it does tend to uh, affect you in a way, especially if it happens over and over again, where you don't really want to ask anyone for help, because you don't want to be let down. But again, that does have to do with surrounding yourself with the right people and understanding that as much as you want to help others, people want to help you too. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. Next thing we're going to go through is emotional. This is going to be a little quicker than the mental, but the emotional side of manifesting happiness every single day is also very important, because again, you've got to have self-worth. You've got to value yourself, and you have to love yourself. And part of that is surrounding yourself with people that love you and support you. If you're surrounded by people who just want to see you fail, you will never end up having that support system that you need, and it's going to be very difficult for you to have any self-worth if nobody is supporting you. Low self-esteem and lack of confidence is an absolute goal killer, guys. Nothing will kill your dreams faster than having no confidence in yourself and not believing in yourself. If you don't believe in you, it's very difficult for anyone else to believe in you. So you've got to have enough self confidence in what it is that you want to achieve, that it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And there's always going to be people who are going to have nothing good to say, or they're going to tell you it's impossible, or they're going to tell you to stop being foolish. But when you have confidence, it doesn't matter what other people say. You know that you can achieve what it is that you want to achieve, and nothing can stand in your way, especially if you believe in what it is that you're doing. And if you have a passion for it, then you will be able to achieve it. You just can't let other people deter you from what it is that you want to do. Always see the glass as half full. And I know that that's very cliche, and I know that a lot of us have heard that, a hundred times before, but it really is true. If you can take a bad situation and find something good in it, or you can take a negative day, and at least be able to see what happened during your day that was positive. These are the little ways, little habits that you start getting into that will start training your brain to start seeing things from a positive perspective. And so, even if it's just the little things throughout the day that you can focus on. Let's say you had a really crummy day and you were running late for work and you missed the bus, but before you left the house, you had an awesome breakfast. Or, later on that day, you found $10, or you got home and dinner was on the table for you, or you got up the next day and you're 10 pounds later on the scale. Whatever it is, always try to be intentional about finding something in your day that was good. If it was sunny out and you got a chance to spend a little time outside, with the sun on your face, It's the little things, the everyday little things that will end up changing your attitude and changing your behavior towards how you think. I know it doesn't seem like the little things matter that much, but they really, really do. So starting to think about little things throughout the day that were good is a really great way to train yourself on a daily basis to look for the happy positive things in your day, to be intentional about manifesting happiness. Um, and now I'm speaking to my ladies. I don't know if we have any guys tuned in, but I know that we have our ladies tuned in. And so I'm sorry, ladies, hang on one second. One of uh, one of the most important things that we all do, I'm guilty of it. I know all of us have done it probably at one time or another. Is we have to remember that age is a number. Um, I'm 52. I'm going to be 53 in June, and I love where I'm at. I don't want to be any older. I don't want to be any younger. I'm happy with the age I'm at now. And when I'm in my 60s, I'll be happy. And however long, if I make it to my 70s or my 80s, it is important that you understand there will always be somebody younger. There will always be somebody richer, smarter, prettier, thinner, taller. Um, we cannot spend our lives comparing ourselves to those other people around us. It will suck the happiness right out of you. You have qualities that are unique, you have qualities that are beautiful. The most beautiful quality that you can have, again, is self confidence. The most beautiful thing about you is how you treat other people. I don't care how pretty a person is on the outside. If they're a negative, bitter individual, that's not pretty, ladies. That's not pretty at all. And none of us want to be that way, but a lot of us do have times where we just unintentionally compare. I know it's just kind of the way of the world, but love yourself, be an individual, and appreciate what it is about you. We all have we all spend so much time worrying about what we want to cover or hide, or the qualities that we don't really want to to have on display. But we all have something that we like about ourselves. We all have a feature or something that we like to highlight when we go out. And so that's what you need to focus on. And you need to be the best you that you can. And a lot of that has to do with the way you embrace who you are and your age. And so age is a big factor in that. Um, this is for a lot of us who have, and I've been really guilty of this more than once, but it is important, ladies, single ladies, and married ladies, ladies in relationships. You need to be an individual. Don't lose yourself in somebody else's life. Single is not a death sentence. Okay, let me repeat that. Single is not a death sentence. Okay. Um, I was single for a long time, and I was also in some unhappy relationships where by the time it was over, I didn't even know who I was anymore, because I had just been so absorbed into this other person's life that I didn't have any. I didn't work on me. I didn't even know who I was. So when you're single and when you're in that interim phase, work on yourself. Work on what it is that you want. I mean, you are in this perfect prime position to only have to worry about making yourself happy right now. And so if it's a career goal, or if it's maybe something that you're working towards and you're saving money for, whatever that might be, that is what you need to be focusing on, and not on the relationship that you're not in. To me, there's nothing that will set you up for failure in a relationship faster than expecting somebody else to provide your happiness for you. It's not someone else's responsibility to make you happy. It's up to you to make you happy. And happiness comes from within. Happiness comes from a place that nobody else can really reach. It has to come from you. And I don't think anybody will ever, any of us will ever be happy in a relationship where we put all of the onus on someone else to continually bring us joy and manifest our happiness. When you are happy with who you are and you are in a place in your life where um, having a significant other is more like the cherry on top of the icing on the cake, that's a really good time. That's when you know you're ready for a relationship. Is when whatever that person brings to the table just just emphasizes what you already have. And don't get me wrong. I mean, you can't be responsible for someone else's happiness either. So a lot of times, ladies, when we've been enablers and we feel like we can fix a situation or we can change, a boyfriend's or a husband's attitude or behavior towards us just by loving them enough. It doesn't always work that way. And then we find ourselves really broken and lost and hurt because we don't know what we did wrong. And it's made even worse sometimes when that person gets right into another relationship and they seem happy. So that's part of letting a lot of that stuff go and just thinking about what makes you happy. So when you're single, ladies, and if you've ended a relationship, whether you've ended it, badly or it was amicable, take care of yourself, treat yourself well, treat yourself to things that you probably wouldn't do if, let's say, you were married. You can go away on a girls' weekend. You can, take yourself to the spa and pamper yourself. You can buy yourself that cute little sports car you want, whatever it is. Treat yourself well and know that when it's the right time, you will find the right person. Don't settle. There's nothing worse than settling and saying, well, it could always be worse. Because you know what, ladies, it could always be better too. So wait for the right guy. Wait for Prince Charming to come and sweep you off your feet. And then make sure that he is also happy with who he is and he isn't expecting you to bear the burden of his happiness as well. Um, the next one is a tough one, especially in this day and age. Let's discuss the potentially detrimental effects of social media. Social media is really in a lot of ways it's poisonous. It creates an unrealistic view of a lot of things, and we may say a lot of times that, oh, well, we know it's photoshopped or this or that, but subconsciously, a lot of times things will get to us, even though we know they're not real. One of the things that I know a lot of us felt over the last couple years, and I know I felt it really, really strongly, was all of the drama and the conflict with the politics and all of that stuff going on, and I was so intentional about just passing by scrolling by every vulgar comment, every hurtful thing that was just thrown out there as a blanket statement. And it was tough. It was not easy to tune a lot of that stuff out. And I had to bite my tongue a few times to keep from responding to things, but I decided to stay out of it because I knew nothing good would come of it. Social media is much more addictive than people realize these days. And all you have to do is look at how much time we actually spend on our phones or on social media, and you'd be surprised. But so much of what we see is not reality. Um, Nowadays, popularity on social media does not equal talent, and it certainly doesn't equal personal value. I read a very disturbing article about an 18-year-old influencer. That's the new term that they're using. Who who committed suicide. We the reasons, it's a relatively new story, and the reasons weren't given as to what happened, other than that she was dealing with depression. But a lot of these younger people these days, and I don't know really what my age demographic is that's going to be viewing this, but if we do have any of those younger viewers on, a lot of you guys and a lot of these younger kids are addicted to social media. I mean, basically, they put their value and their self worth on how many likes they get, or how many people posted on their page, or it's really very, very unrealistic. I mean, we used to talk about body dysmorphia and people having issues with how they saw themselves, but this is actually even worse, because I mean, with all of the filters, the Photoshop filters, there's people that we know of now that are only celebrities, and only people that others recognize because of their online presence. And again, they even have a title for it. They're called social media influencers. So it's it's one of those things where you are allowing your value to be decided by a bunch of people that don't know you. And we understand that movies and art and music can all be subjective, but the social media trend reminds me almost of the Emperor's New Clothes, and this story where everybody told the emperor how amazing he looked, and he wasn't even wearing anything. And so it's important to keep in mind that nothing to do with our worth is ever based on social media, whether it's negative comments, whether it's positive comments. Don't get hung up on who likes your posts and who doesn't like your posts, and no one commented on my posts, and so and so got more likes on their post than I got on mine. This social media thing is really kind of out of control. So be sure that you aren't focusing too much on the things that are said. We have a tendency to be much more vocal, which is obviously funny for social media, but we will say things and post things and write things on social media that we would never say to somebody's face. um, and it kind of has given us this ability to just go ahead and be more hateful and say things that are just can get misconstrued. So try not to focus if you've got an issue with and again, it does take a little bit of looking inward and being honest with yourself. But if you feel sometimes like you're constantly checking your Facebook page or your social media to see, did anyone comment, or did anyone like my page or like what I posted, that might be a good time to take a little break and step away from social media, and not worry so much about what anyone, a lot of times that you don't even know, had to say about what you posted. Um, let's talk about physical. Physical is obvious. I mean, we all know that some of the things that are just kind of like staples of what makes us feel better, but taking care of your body is very important. There's nothing that will leave me feeling depressed faster than laying around and getting no physical exercise. And physical exercise is vital for all of us. But it also isn't just effective for our bodies; it's also effective for our minds and the way we think about things. And we have things like serotonin, epinephrine, all of that stuff is released in the brain. Dopamine, your body releases all of these chemicals that they call them your feel good, your feel good chemicals. Uh, you don't have to go crazy. I know that for me, I've scaled back on a lot of my workouts, just because I can't do what I used to. So I'm trying to come to terms with that, but that's okay. Exercise is a vital part of being happy. It really is. Whether it's just getting out for half an hour and walking around the block, I prefer to be outside just because I like the fresh air. I like the sunshine on my face. The weather we've been having in Florida has been amazing. So going out to the park and walking around in nature and the trees and the cold air has just been amazing. It's so it clears your head and makes you feel amazing. So the exercise and along with the exercise, creating healthy eating habits. Um, if you're eating junk, if you're putting junk in, junk's coming out. Now, I'm not a health coach, but I have spent a lot of time in my life working out and working on healthy eating habits. And I did go to culinary school, so I have a pretty good grasp on diet and nutrition as well. But it's important to eat well. It's important to treat your body well. You only have one. And if you run it into the ground, not only won't you feel good up here, you won't feel good here. And so, eating, exercise, getting enough sleep, very important. So, and of course, a lot of water. That's one of the things I don't drink. I don't drink enough water. I know it, and I'm working on it. Um, but there's other things that you can incorporate that will help you as well in achieving intentional happiness. Things like practicing meditation and breath control. If you ever look up anything about the Shaolin monks, they spent their lives doing this, and it's a very a lot of people don't understand that you actually do. It's something that you actually do have to be very intentional about, because if you try to meditate and you aren't focusing on emptying your mind, you won't be able to do it. I've tried; it's not easy. So, practicing meditation, practicing breath control, listening to your breath. I learned a lot of that from my darling friend Deb in yoga. That breathing is a very big part of emptying your body from toxins, and you breathe in oxygen, but you release nitrogen, and getting rid of all of that, or I'm sorry, not nitrogen, scratch that, carbon dioxide. um, so breathing well, eating well, sleeping well, and treating your body well are all important. But there are additional things you can do, and these are some of the things that a lot of times we don't even think about, and I personally love. Um, it's very important to me to be intentional about using my senses, going outside, closing my eyes, feeling the sun on my face. Certain smells that I just love, fabric softener, laundry detergent, or, fresh air, um, feeling the breeze on your face, having tactical things that you can touch, things that you can feel externally can make you happy too. Music is a very, very important part. I mean, we've all had those breakup songs. We've all had those songs that make you cry, those songs that make you just want to get up and dance. Those all have a lot of effect on your mood. And so I find that if I'm in a certain mood, I can listen to certain music, and it'll help pull me right out of that. So there are other ways for physical interaction and physical things that you can do to help also get your mind a little bit more centered. And so learn to find out what it is that you like, a certain kind of music, spending time outdoors, anything that you enjoy that helps to put you in a peaceful state of mind also helps to bring happiness about. Here's a good one for you. And this is fun to do. I've tried this a couple times, and it's always interesting when I walk the block. I'm very intentional about smiling at people, and when I pass people, it's just an automatic thing for me to say hi and to smile. How you doing? How's your day? A smile goes a long way to breaking down barriers with people. I've had some really strange a different range of reactions. I've had people just look at me like I'm crazy and give me a dirty look. I've had people that have responded back and we'll stop and actually have a very short conversation. But smiling at people is a really kind of a great way to take them off guard sometimes, because when people are in their own minds, and we don't know what people have gone through or what kind of day they've had. When you smile at somebody, it just might be the one thing that they needed that day to kind of snap them out of a funk that they're in. So try to be intentional about smiling at people, and learning to laugh. I mean, Laughing is great for your happy factor, especially if you can laugh at yourself. If you don't take yourself too seriously, and I know some of us are a little uncomfortable with that, and it's not always easy, but learn to laugh at yourself. I'm telling you, it is so much more fun, and you take things so so seriously sometimes that if we can just stop and laugh at what it is that we've done that might be silly or or goofy instead of being embarrassed by it, it really really does make a difference, and people around you react differently too. I mean, if you do something and you kind of get nervous about it or you get uncomfortable about it. People around you might get uncomfortable about it. But when you laugh at yourself and everybody knows like you're comfortable, it's easier for them to kind of laugh too. And it puts everybody at ease. So the next thing is accepting that there will always be ups and downs in life. And sometimes loss is inevitable. I mean, we all go through it. We've all had to deal with loss in our lives. Friends, relatives, pets, jobs. I mean, we don't get to a lot of times to the age we are, at least for me, where you haven't had to deal with loss. But it's how you deal with loss that's important. You can stew and meditate and get stuck in it like quicksand, or you can tackle it head on, allow yourself to grieve and move on and let it make you stronger. I think one of the things lately that I've grieved for the most was a job I lost that I absolutely loved, and it losing that job came out of nowhere. It was completely unexpected, and I didn't realize how long I was in mourning over this job. My husband actually pointed it out. So learning how to deal with loss is really a good way to process these issues and then move on. And I'm not a grief counselor. I definitely, if anybody is in that situation, I definitely recommend getting some help, some mental health help, some therapy. Talk therapy works great when you're dealing with loss, and keeping your mind active, always learning. But one of the things I think that I had a big issue with, and I know that it's been a problem for other people in the past, is I have unfortunately I have suffered from depression for a very long time, and I went to counseling and I did a lot of things that I thought would be helpful, and eventually it did end up requiring medication. And I think that one of the issues that we have in this day and age is we end up feeling shame um, when we when we end up utilizing medications to deal with anything from depression to bipolar disorder to ADHD, and that is something that I feel very very strongly about. I don't think anyone, whether it's for religious reasons or anything else, should ever minimize a a mental illness or depression, especially right now when so many people are dealing with it, and it's so important that people get help. It's so important that people understand that it is not a weakness. It is not anything to be ashamed of. I am very vocal about the fact that I take medication for depression, and it's helped. It's helped me immensely, and I stopped taking it for a while, and I went back to a depressive state, and so I know firsthand the effects of being off medication and being on medication. And if you meet with a mental health practitioner, if they recommend medication, I am a firm believer in if nothing else has worked, give it a try. You don't have to take it if it doesn't work. I know that I went through quite a few that didn't, and that's okay too. But if you are dealing with long term depression, and we're not just talking about having a bad day, a professional mental health counselor will help you determine what it is that you are dealing with. And we all have issues that we go through, and sometimes just couple of months of counseling help, and you're back to feeling normal. But do not ever feel shame or weakness by admitting that you need help for depression. And the very last topic, I saved this for last. I saved this for last on purpose because for me, this is personally the most important. And I know that many of us come from religious backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, and I feel it's very, very important to be sensitive and respectful of others' beliefs. However, no matter what you believe in, it is definitely imperative to believe in something. Um, there is nothing more detrimental to happiness than hopelessness. And a lack of faith leads to hopelessness. If you have nothing to have faith in, then you end up lost, very lost. And personally, for me, I choose to put God first and foremost in my life. Always, I involve Him in all my decisions, especially in areas that I feel like I'm weak in. For me, prayer and fellowship with God every day is essential to my happiness, my personal happiness, and faith is very, very important to me. And honestly, I have days where it's really the only thing